Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to just quickly walk you through setting your study up on SONA. So first of all, log in to SONA, then let's log in as a principal investigator. Now to add your new study, you just want to add a new study. Now for people who are doing a lab study, you would choose standard study credit. For people who are doing an online survey kind of study, that will be an online external study credit. For standard study, it would be credit as well. Okay, and then you just have to put in some information about your study. So let's say hypothetically you're doing an online study. It might be a good useful for you to have your Qualtrics open on another tab. So for example, I've got that and I've got my little example study here. Open up that study, and so I'm just going to copy my title of my study and put that as my study name. And you want a brief abstract about what your study is for your participants to understand what the study is. Cats. Now you just want it to be a short, snappy summary of what your study is. Then in the detailed description, that's where you will provide more detail, where you can go to I'd recommend just, copy and paste the bulk of your information sheet type thing. So for a lab study, there will be on your information sheet, but for an online study, you can just copy and paste it from the survey preamble, chuck that in there, and then just maybe slightly modify that as appropriate. Okay, then for eligibility requirements, if you have anything there, you can put that in, such as if you're only doing a study that's investigating parents, for example, you might put that people need to be a parent if it's a study that's just about parents and their perspectives and things. But in my example here, I don't have, I guess in my study here, participants must have a pet cat. Now the duration will depend on what your study is. Now, we only want it to be in multiples of 30 minutes. So even if your study is less than 30 minutes, 30 is the minimum. So, and then if your study is above 30, so if it's say about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, then you would put 60 minutes. So my survey example is a pretty short one, so I'm just going to leave it as 30. Now credits, it's 0.5 points per half hour for online studies. It is a little bit different for lab studies. It's 1 point per half hour, but for a online study, it's half an hour study, so 0.5 of a credit point. I'll put that in there. Now, preparation, you could maybe put some information if the participant needs to prepare in any way. It's fairly rare for that to happen, but just in case, you can do that. So for researcher, there's just myself there, so your name would be in there somewhere, and you just put your own name in there. Double check that, because sometimes by default it can have someone else's name there. Just make sure that that's correct in your name. You can see principal investigator is me. Now your ethics code, I encourage people to put that in. So whatever number that is, check that in. You'll see here it says approved, currently not approved. Approval is required. Once you add the study, send the SONA administrator person in the psych department who is currently acting as that person an email. Don't just click and then leave it. Send that person an email and then they can follow up. So at the present, that person would be me that you'd send the email to. So active study, I'm going to say yes, this is active. Before I add it, there's some advanced settings. Let's just quickly run through those. So here, for prerequisites, you might, in more complicated study designs, you may have another initial study that people have to do prior to participating in your one or certain sort of things, and this is where you're able to set these up. Probably more common is a disqualifier. So let's say that if you're an honours student and there are other people doing a similar type of study as you that semester, and it will not be good for your research if people are doing your survey just after they've maybe done a similar sort of survey, because it could bias their responses or something. So in here you could choose one of those kind of other studies that are listed and say, if the participant has done that study, well then I don't want them to do my study. You can set up that kind of thing. Course restrictions, usually you'll just leave this blank, but in rare situations you might want to have a restriction. So say, for example, you're only interested in the first year student experience, you would limit it just to the first years rather than other years, as one example. Invitation code, don't really need that. Web-based study, yes. Code, just leave that no. Now here, study URL for online studies, you want to put this in. You don't necessarily have to do this right now. You could just leave this till later, but since we're here, I'll go back to my Qualtrics study. I'll go to the distributions tab here, and I'm going to copy the link, copy that. I'm going to put that in. Now note at the bottom, it says if the text survey code is included in the URL, the system will replace that with a unique code for participant to make it easy to identify who completed the study. Now, we want that. So I'm going to go, say what it says, is it percentage, and then survey. And then, yeah, done. Okay. Study URL, no. Participant sign-up deadline. Usually my own studies, I just leave this as default, but for yourself, for whatever reasons, you might want to modify these, either the sign-up deadline and the cancellation deadline, depending on your study. Now, should you receive an email notification when a participant signs up or cancels? Now, for online studies, you probably wouldn't be too bothered with this, but for people who have lab-based studies, I can see a lot of the time you'd be interested in getting that emailed just to let you know, because you have to go and rock up. Now, can researchers for the study be assigned to specific time slots? And this only applies if there's more than one researcher. So this is pretty rare with honours, but in the case where you've got multiple honours people involved in one project, you might set up one study, and you may want multiple honours people able to access and do things with the study on Qualtrics, so SONA. So yeah, you check this then. Can a participant sign up for this study more than once? For the bulk of studies, you would say no. Only in very rare exceptional circumstances would you say yes, depending on the study. Other comments, usually people don't put anything in there. And so, yeah, all done. I'm just going to say add this study. And my study has been added. And you can see there's just information. It looks a little bit daunting, but it's not. It's just basic information about it. And you can see on the right-hand side how much usage time that you've got left and things like that. You can see in here just the information that you added about your study in terms of all the descriptions and how much credits it is and everything. So once you've got a study added, if you want to edit it later on, you can go on the study menu and change study information. And that basically brings you back to that same input screen that we had earlier. So when you first add a study, if you make a mistake or something, it's not the end of the world. You can go back and edit it once you've added the study. And for my studies, you see my studies there, but it's not approved yet. So, like I said, once you've set your study up, then just email the person who's administering SONA. Now, this isn't the SONA people. Email someone from the ECU psychology department who manages it, and they will approve it for you once you've got your ethics approval. Okay, thanks for watching.